when you think about that, how do you account for some of that variation? So we talk about fixed effects versus random effects. So how do we start to help people set up those designs?
Good. So I think you just hit the point of the thread there, Laura. It is important to understand experimental design, how the study was designed. That will usually tell us a lot about how the experiment was laid out and organized. And that will give us a lot of insight into the data generation process. Now, in addition to that, usually what happens is stuff happens. As we are conducting the experiment, many times things don't work out exactly like we planned them to be, and we need to adapt on the go. To accommodate this, there are tools available to try to accommodate and understand the data generation process. So you may have heard about ANOVA shells, which are not necessarily ANOVA tables, which of course have all the sums of squares, algebra attached to them, but actually shells that look into basically the thought process that Ronald Fisher had in mind when first thinking about ANOVA, the thought process without the algebra, and tries to separate and identify the elements of the treatment structure, basically the questions that we are asking, the elements of the design structure that have to do with how the experiment is organized and how they come together. So ANOVA shells, they have been proposed from University of Nebraska outside of the ANOVA table, basically. And they're sometimes called what would Fishers do tables, trying to make reference to the thought process as opposed to the mechanics of ANOVA tables. These are tools that I teach in my courses. These are tools that I use on a day-to-day basis on my statistical consulting. I find them to be very, very useful to try to articulate and formalize the data generation process. Mm-hmm. Once you have that down, specifying a model is actually very, very simple. But it's not something, it's not a trial and error thing. You really need to understand how the data was generated in order to have a feel for what a properly specified model needs to be.